Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Jim Moseley. I'm an Associate Professor of Instructional Technology at Wayne State University, Detroit, Michigan. And it's my pleasure to be with you this morning to share some insight about my route to the journey of performance improvement. A little bit different from some of my colleagues. I'm a pure academician. I've spent 40 years at the university, and prior to that 13 years in secondary school education. So let me begin my journey with telling you a little bit about the secondary school education and then move into the university type of setting, because it was from those early experiences that laid the foundation for me and my work in instructional technology and also in human performance. When I graduated from the university, got my first teaching job, and I was teaching high school English and history. I then went to become a director of guidance and then a principal of 2 schools. Now, in that principalship, I learned an awful lot about leadership and working with people. I was principal of a very small school of 350 people. I put up a $550,000 addition. And the neighborhood changed, the culture changed, and as a result of that, then I was forced to move on. I went on to a private all-girls high school of 850 women and staff of 53, and that was really the beginning of my experience, I would say, my foundational experience in human performance and in dealing with people. I don't know what I said one of the first times that I came out and met the senior class, but I angered 250 women in the senior class, and they sat by my office. I literally sat on the floor there until I came out and addressed their needs. I learned how to work with people in that experience and that leadership, along with staff of 53, as I said, that really made me today what I am. From there I went to the university, and I was looking for a teaching position. There wasn't any teaching position available for me at that particular time because I was a nobody. I had a couple of articles that I had published, but a couple of articles at that particular time, and that was in 1975, didn't cut the mustard. But I was fortunate enough to network with people. I knew how to do that, and excuse me, network with people. I knew how to do that, and as a result of that networking experience, I was able to secure a job at Wayne State University in the School of Medicine. I've subsequently spent 31 years in the School of Medicine. In 1975, the Department of Family Medicine was formed. That was the time when the American Medical Association recognized family practice, the clinical experience, as a new specialty. The academic experience is family medicine. And there was all kinds of opportunities available for students to get involved in family practice. All kinds of financial opportunities as well for the university, and so with a number of grants we were able to secure a nice program in teaching the basic principles of family medicine in this newly recognized family practice AMA approved discipline. And there I've learned again how to work with people, and really without knowing it too much, knowing what to do in terms of human performance. I spent as I said, a number of years there in the School of Medicine. 13 of those years were spent in the dean's office. I was doing a whole variety of medical curricular types of activities, and working with faculty. You know, a faculty member, a biostatistician would come in, or even more so, the biochemist who was going to be teaching the Krebs cycle would come in and say, "Jim, help me write some performance objectives," what the heck those things are. So I would sit down with the biochemist and actually carve out with him or with her the objectives to teach the 55-minute lecture on the Krebs cycle. And this went on with kidney 1, 2, 3, and 4. You know how it is in medical education. Excuse me again. So once I did that in the dean's office, plus a whole host of other types of administrative experiences that I had in working with 5 different deans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, 13 years in the dean's office, 5 different deans, all with different styles of administration, different philosophical orientations about education, about student performance, about faculty performance. All those things were instrumental in helping me with the path that I find myself in right now. After spending the time in the dean's office, my department folded. I was in the Department of Community Medicine. There were 6 of us on the faculty, but the interim dean decided at that time that we couldn't at all compete with larger clinical departments. And that was understandable. I mean, when you have a department of surgery or a department of medicine that has 70, 80 people, you can't very well compete with only 6 of us. So he decided to actually disband our department, and 2 of our people, 2 of the 6 were dismissed because they didn't have tenure. 2 remained in the department, in the newly created Department of Family Medicine, and then 2 of us, my chair and I, had an opportunity to go anywhere we wanted to go on campus and because we had tenure. Well, I had been teaching on a part-time basis, adjunct capacity, in the College of Education. I was teaching in the area of needs assessment and program validity. What else? We were teaching program evaluation and human performance. There's something floating in the air, so forgive me for coughing. When I say human performance, one of the classes that I taught was, as I said, the needs assessment program validity, and just so happened that at that particular semester we were in the College of Education in the lower concourse of the college, we call it the basement, and the air conditioning went out. Well, there was about 4 more weeks left for class. I had 40 people in the class. What were we going to do? They told me that we're not going to be able to fix the air conditioning. You're going to have to suffer through it. Fortunately, I still had my connections in the medical school because I was employed there, and was able to move that class to the School of Medicine. The important thing about that experience, however, was that mostly the people that were involved in that class were master's and doctoral level students, and many of them, I would say about 32 of them, were members of the Ford Motor Company in Dearborn, Michigan. And they were earning different types of degrees, master's, ed specialist certificates, and doctorates, PhDs, EdDs. And they asked me if I would be interested in teaching a course in performance technology. Well, I said, well, sure, but what is performance technology? And they began to tell me as far as they knew. And so I said yes, and I said, let me go and check it out. So I spent a couple of weeks with some intensive study of what was human performance, or what is now human performance interaction or instruction, or whatever you want to call it. And came back and said, yeah, I'd be interested, certainly, in teaching a course like that. I went to my esteemed mentor, Dr. Rita Ritchie, and asked her if she would give me the opportunity to teach it. She said, go for it. So I went looking in the literature, and at that time the journal was not the Performance Improvement Journal. If I'm not mistaken, it was NSPI, the journal that the NSPI organization supported at that particular time. Excuse me. And I found that there really wasn't much written in the literature on performance improvement. I was able to find in the journal 3 articles on performance analysis and how to do a performance analysis. It wasn't until a couple of years later, when I was teaching the course, that Stolovich and Keeps came out with their first edition of the Handbook of Performance Technology. So along with the journal articles that I was able to accumulate and the handbook, we had a research focus for the course. So I could direct our attention and structure the course around those particular areas. Later on, a couple years later, Stolovich and Keeps came out with their second edition with other types of articles that were in vogue at the time, and we again refocused our thinking in human performance on the basis of that research information. And then still later, Pershing came out as editor of the third edition of the Handbook of Performance Improvement, all with many, many different articles in over the years. Now, the interesting thing was that students kept saying to me, Jim, this is all good, but there's a lot of theory here, a lot of background information which we need. But how do you do it? How do we work with our organizations? How do we change the culture? How do we influence people to do this thing of human performance? And so, as a result of that, my colleague Darlene Van Teen, Joan Dessinger and I, my colleagues, were able to secure a contract from Josie Bass, and in 2000, when I was still at the medical school, in 2000, then in the Department of Community Medicine, we were able to come out with our first book, which was Performance Technology. And it was a green book. It was followed by 2001, a book on interventions in the workplace. That was a blue book. And then in 2004, the second edition of the Performance Technology book came out. It was also green, and the reason why it was green was because the organization decided that they were no longer in the book producing business. And so they didn't want to spend the money to change the color. We had a different cover on the book that we had proposed to distinguish the 2000 edition from the 2004, but it wasn't to happen. Excuse me. So between 2004 and incidentally, that book in 2004 was about 250 pages, somewhere around there, maybe give or take 10 pages or so. But it was good because it showed people how to do performance technology in the workplace, whatever the workplace happened to be. Then we began to see the field change substantially. So we were asked, that is my colleagues and I, Darlene and Joan, were asked to come up with with the next edition of the book. Now this was in 2012, so from 2004 to 2012, lots of changes in the field. Okay. In fact, we see our own organization here, our ISPI organization. It's an international organization, but with a very global audience. And we wanted to capitalize on the emerging talent and the new things that were occurring in the workplace. As a result of that, we came up with our third edition of our book in 2012, Fundamentals of Performance Improvement. Didn't say performance technology, it says performance improvement, optimizing results through people, progress, and process and organizations. So you can see 640 some pages here of information. And the interesting thing here, make a plug for the book, is that it takes the model that ISPI supports, a model that was originally generated by Dieterlein and Rosenberg way back in, I think 1990s, somewhere around there, and we enhanced that particular model. We were told that we should not change the model, but we could enhance it. So we have since enhanced that model very, very much, and it is the focal point for this particular book and for how to do performance improvement in the workplace. Now let me say this, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm always cautious about saying this. Models are just guides. There are all kinds of models in the literature, all kinds of models on performance improvement, performance technology. This is the one in this book is the one that is supported by your professional organization. But, you know, when I suggest to a student, choose a model, look at this one, but also look at some of the other models that are out there. And when you're working with a client, choose the model that is most successful or most appropriate for that interaction that you're going to have. But a model is just a guide. The thing that you have to remember about human performance is that that guide is there for you, but we are a principle-driven organization, okay? We value results and accomplishments. The RSVP, our results. S, systems view, systematic thinking, okay? V, value, what's value for you, what's of value for the client particularly, and the P, partnership, forming partnerships with your individual, with your organization, and ultimately with the greater society with which that organization has major input and impact. Now, within that frame of reference, we also follow very, very closely the 10 standards of performance improvement, standards that the organization subscribes to. They are also here in the textbook. They are explained. They are explained in the ISPI journal, the Performance Improvement Journal. And if you are stuck in being able to find them, check the homepage. The standards are there. The other thing that I like about this organization and the standards is the fact that we subscribe to a code of ethics. 7 different codes of 7 different areas of codes of involved in the code of ethics. For example, adding value, collaborate, exhibit integrity, focus on confidentiality, and there are others, but they're easily able to find. But we have a group of standards that we follow. We have a group of ethical principles that we follow, all under the umbrella of the RSVP, results, systems view, adding value, and forming partnerships with clients. Remember, we're an international organization. We have a global perspective now. And while this book is very, very helpful, and it's used in, well, as of last year, it was used in 20 institutions of higher learning. It's been translated into Chinese. So it gives you an idea of, I think, the value of what we've written here, and the fact that people are taking the information and actually applying it. And that's very, very gratifying. But remember, a model is just a guide. I don't want you to think that I'm here supporting just a model. We're supporting principles. Okay, so there are lots of other things here that I want to share with you. I did share with you my first exposure to performance improvement. And as an academic, of course, my job is to teach. Now, I've taught the Human Performance Technology class at Wayne State now 22 times. I went back to my grade book to check how many times it was. And each time it changes. Excuse me. It changes because the environment changes. The organizations change. The people change. I've got people in my class from Saudi Arabia, people from China, and of course a whole host of others. I don't see too many K through 12 people, but on occasion I get a K through 12 person in that class. Most of my people come from business, industry, healthcare, and yet at the same time we need human performance in the workplace, the K through 12 workplace. And if you follow through some of the work that Dr. Judy Hale and her colleagues are doing, you will find that the work in the K through 12 environment is gradually taking shape. So what are some of my biggest influences, if you will? Well, certainly people in the field. I'm fortunate to be listed now and honored by the ISPI organization as one of their lifetime members with a life award, honorary life award that I received. And I take my place with a whole host of gurus in the field. You know, people like Roger Kaufman, Rita Ritchie, Mager, Pipe, Rummler, you know, and on and on and on. Just go to the homepage of ISPI, look at some of the awards that ISPI gives, and see what the history of those awards happen to be, and the people who have earned those awards in the past. And fortunately, I and my colleagues, Darlene and Joan, have been able to participate in that experience. So my influence has been with lots of people in the field. The books that have made an important, significant impact on me, obviously, are the handbooks of performance improvement, performance technology, and I like to read things in the area of leadership, in the area of culture. I like particularly to look at business anthropology. I like to look at the sociology of institutions. I like to look at how people learn, the psychology of learning, and how that influences. And I'm particularly pleased today to see in some of the journals that I'm picking up the great impact on neuroscience and how brain research is affecting the types of things that we are doing in the workplace. And maybe some of that comes out of my work with working with neuroscientists in teaching neuroscience to medical students. But go to any medical school and see what your neuroscientists are doing and what the impact they are having in terms of brain research and how that is going to influence how we learn, how we teach, and the journey that we will take in the future in terms of human performance. What's my current focus for the future? Well, I am fortunate in the sense that I'm on my way out. I said I spent 40 years in the academic situation at Wayne State, and now in 13 years before that in secondary education. So it's time for me now to pass the baton on to other people. That doesn't mean that I'm going to slow down. It doesn't mean that I'm giving up. You know, you've got to keep your mind active and current. So my current focus is to continue to do some writing. I have a couple of books in mind. I will share one of them with you. I have a title for it. It's becoming crystallized, and it's called Living, Learning, and Connecting with Older Adults, Stories Told and Lessons Learned. I have an interest in gerontology from my background. I'm in my teaching at the medical school. When I was in the Department of Community Medicine, I taught gerontological health care. I taught health program evaluation. I taught community and public health. The interest in gerontology had been there, led me to go on and get some academic background, professional background in gerontology education, and so I'd like to pursue that a little bit more. But the other area that I'm very much interested in is in the area of emerging professionals. I don't know quite what that means. There are some people here in the organization today, young people running around, 25, 30, 35, maybe a few others that are a little bit older, and they call themselves emerging professionals. I'm very interested in seeing what emerging professionals are, who they are, in terms of and what they do and what their issues are, and perhaps I can, as I step down now, I can perhaps serve in a role of mentoring some of these people But I will tell you, I'm not going to do that until I give myself some time to adjust to the retirement issues. I owe that to myself. So, interest in writing, certainly. On the personal side, you know, people ask me, what are you going to do in your retirement? Well, lots of things. I mean, travel is one of the things, but I also am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Michigan. And I've gone through the professional experiences in gambling counseling. Now, I'm not a gambler myself. I do go to the casino. I'll play the slot machine on occasion. Certainly love their buffets. But there's a difference between social gambling and pathological gambling. And having gone through the courses in gambling counseling and being a professional counselor from the state, I would like to pursue that. The only thing that's holding me back right now is the fact that with pathological gambling and with the addiction studies, you really should do an internship. I've done internships in the past, working with adolescents, working with adults, but pathological gambling addiction is something entirely different. So I'm looking at that in the future. I also have, in some of my background, the opportunity to do some work in library science. I was trained in library science in one of my graduate degrees with an emphasis in medical bibliography. So I could indeed do some work in a library if I were interested in doing that. It's now in the field of information sciences, and I could see myself consulting in that particular area, helping people in business, industry, healthcare seek out the resources that they need to do the jobs that they are doing in the area of performance improvement. One of the questions that is raised often to me is, you know, what are there any terms? Are there any ideas that are perplexing to you, or how do you define some of the terminology? Well, I was thinking of that, and I'll tell you, one of the difficulties in this field is that I don't think we have a lot of meaning. Okay, if I were to ask you to define human performance technology, you would give me some sort of definition. If I were asked you to define human performance, you would give me a definition. If I were to ask you to define performance improvement, you would give me a definition. Well, we have lots of definitions for lots of terms in this particular field. We have our own individual meaning, M-E-A-N-I-N-G, but I don't think we have shared meaning. And so when we go out and we consult with clients, or we talk to other people about the field of performance improvement, we're not always together in terms of what we mean. And I think we as an organization, and I see it coming, we as an organization need to come up with more shared meaning rather than all these little definitions of terms that are peculiar to our particular field and scare the daylights out of people who are asking us what this field is all about. What are some of my stories that I have? Well, again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm an academician, so the stories that I have to tell are stories of reading the faces of men and women who, when you give a particular idea or expand a particular thought or share a particular feeling about or look at a particular case study and ask for their impressions, those are the things that tell me the stories. And the stories are, I get it now. I see it. I didn't see it the first 3 weeks. And sometimes it takes longer to absorb. I mean, they're reading, but they're reading a bunch of words. And my job is to help them clarify. My job is not to provide a lot of facts. The facts are here in the book. If you want the facts, go to the books. My job is to help the students become critical thinkers. And critical thinkers in reference to being good performance improvement specialists in the field. So my stories are related to seeing expressions on people's faces, talking to them about ideas, and it's paying off. I mean, as I said, the fundamentals of performance improvement has now gone into, is the 3rd edition, but has also been translated in Chinese. So we are seeing great opportunities here, and I understand from some of my students that when they complete their doctorates, they're going to go home and they're going to take the performance improvement book here, and they're going to translate that into Arabic. Well, we'll see if that indeed happens, but these are stories that are peculiar to individuals, and the ahas that these individuals have when they're generated by ideas that we collectively, collaboratively as a class share. Let's see, what else? I had a couple of ideas written down here. Let me just share here a couple more things. I think that every job that we undertake in the area of performance improvement is a self-portrait of the person who does it. And so I would share with you and with my students as an academician to autograph your work with excellence. Always autograph your work with excellence. I would also suggest to you to behold the turtle. I've always liked the turtle. I have a couple of ceramics on my desk at the office and also at home on turtles, and I say, behold the turtle. It makes no progress unless its neck is out. So in the area of performance improvement, you certainly have to stick your neck out. Now, I'm not saying be stupid and get your head cut off, but maybe the first time you're going to get a slap on the hand, okay? Or you're going to see failure, but don't look at that failure or don't look at that slap on the hand as a negative. View it as a positive, okay? View it in the way a turtle views it. Sticks its neck out, makes little progress, improves along the way, and ultimately gets to the goal that it is seeking. So behold the turtle. It makes no progress unless its neck is out. And then I would say also to you, along those lines, be passionate about what you do. Always be passionate. When I say autograph your work with excellence, you've got to be passionate in what you do in the area of human performance. You're dealing with people. You're dealing with great people who have ideas to share. That's part of the opportunity to partner with individuals, to share ideas, okay? And to watch people grow within those ideas that you are providing in a foundational way. So be passionate about yourself, about your ideas, and I would say believe in yourself, ladies and gentlemen. Believe in yourself, and the magic will happen. It is a journey, okay? It's a lifelong journey of experiences, and coming to conferences like the ISPI conference or any of the other supporting conferences that our colleagues may attend are all very, very helpful. Put all those ideas together and then make them your own. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm happy to have had the opportunity to share this experience. Again, keep in mind that my experience is a lot different from somebody who is using performance improvement in the area of the corporate world, okay? But, or in a hospital environment or wherever. I'm speaking as an academician. That's the frame of reference that I have to share with you. And if it's invaluable, I'm appreciative. So thank you very, very much for the opportunity to share this insight with you. And again, believe in yourself and the magic will happen. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.